It never seems to get remembered with all the other great classics. Is that deserved? Let's take a look. Okay, everybody, today we're going all the way back to 1963 to take a look at a gem of a flick that has its place, but not on the same mantle as a lot of other motion pictures. We're going back to look at The Day of the Triffids, sometimes known as Invasion of the Triffids. Whatever, it doesn't make a difference. But before we look at it any farther, before we dig into it any more, once and again, and as always, to the trailer.
The Day of the Triffids, when terror rained from the sky. The Day of the Triffids, when the Earth orbits into a nightmare. When the solid world of everyday reality disintegrates. The whole population is driven by fear towards insanity. The Day of the Triffids, when destruction closes in from every side.
Pilot, is he blind too?
It's going to be starvation, fire, pestilence. Anyone caught in the middle of it doesn't stand a chance. I think we ought to get out of here and go on to Spain.
How can you know it's any better there?
I don't.
Doesn't seem to have any central nervous system.
Then how does it move?
All plants move. They don't usually pull themselves out of the ground and chase you.
You have never been married?
No.
Why?
Guess I've never been in one spot long enough to get caught.
And now you are saddled with a family.
It might have its points.
The Day of the Triffids, when law and order are overwhelmed in an avalanche of terror.
Okay, this motion picture has two directors, not working together, but very separately. We'll get to all that later. First, you got Steve Sekely. Well, he's done stuff like Stronghold and the fabulous Suzanne. Fabulous? Did I say fabulous? The fabulous Suzanne and Waterfront and My Buddy and Revenge of the Zombies and Hollow Triumph. And then you got Freddie Francis, who did movies like The Creeping Flesh and Son of Dracula and Trog and The Skull and The Brain and The Evil of Frankenstein. So, two very distinct guys doing two very separate jobs in this motion picture. We'll get there. Okay, playing Bill Masen is Howard Keel. Been in some shit. We're talking he was in 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. We're talking he was in Calamity Jane and Annie Get Your Gun and Red Tomahawk and The War Wagon and Fast Company and Kiss Me Kate and Showboat. So he was in a lot of stuff, a lot of westerns. So if you recognize him, you think you know that guy? Because you know that guy. Playing Mrs. Durant, Nicole Maurey. Let's go. We're talking about she was in stuff like His and Hers, in The House of the 7 Hawks, and Me and the Colonel, and The Blood and the Brave, and Diary of a Country Priest, and The Scapegoat, and Killer Spy. So, had a career, made some flicks. Some you might not remember. Yeah, who really cares? She was working. Playing Karen Goodwin, the ever so cute Janette Scott. Let's roll. She was in stuff like The Devil's Disciple, Happy as the Bride, Crack in the World, 2 and 2 make 6, Double Bunk, Edge of Divorce, The Magic Box. Again, stuff that isn't probably going to jump out at you really quick, but she was out there, she was doing her thing. God bless her. Playing Tom Goodwin, Kieron Moore. Let's roll. We're talking about he was in stuff like The League of Gentlemen, not The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, people. The League of Gentlemen was way, way before, whatever. Run Like a Thief, and The Thin Red Line, which I hope all of you remember, and Cracking the World, and Bikini Paradise, and Custer of the West, and Son of a Gunfighter. And he was on TV, and Vendetta, and Ryan International and stuff, so out there, working, doing his thing, is what it was. Let's keep going. Playing young Suzanne, Janina Faye. Here we go. She was in stuff like The Horror of Dracula, and a lot of TV. Emergency Ward 10, Emerald Soup, Little Women, Napoleon in Love, Angels, The Bill, Room at the Bottom. So she was out there, she was acting, doing her thing. Kind of gets cast into the whole thing of almost like a forgotten actress. She was there and then gone. Whatever, doesn't make a difference. She was in this and that's all that counts. Okay, everybody, we're going to try to do this in 90 seconds or less so we can keep it short, keep it fast, keep it entertaining, and keep it moving so we can get to where we would rather be, which is the summation, which is where we have our most fun. Okay, you have these little plants on planet Earth. They're called Triffids. How did the Triffids get here? Well, they grew off of a meteorite that crashed onto Earth several years prior to this taking place. Weird, odd, nobody questions it. Don't worry, it's a movie. What are you going to do? Well, a little while later, a whole bunch of meteors come by planet Earth, and they're going through our atmosphere, putting on a hell of a fucking light show. And basically, everybody and anybody on planet Earth is staring up at it going, ooh, ah, ooh. Well, there's a side effect to this fucking thing. The next day, everybody's optic nerves are burned out of their skull, and the whole planet is blind. Well, I'd say like 99.8% of the planet is blind, and there are survivors. One guy happened to be in the hospital one day. He was getting his eyes worked on, and he had bandages over him. So, he survives this little event, takes the bandages off, comes to find out the whole goddamn hospital is blind. Everyone's blind. His doctor can't handle the fact that he's blind. He pitches himself out a window. Crazy shit. Walking around the city, sees everything's gone to shit, crazy, and everybody is blind, except for this one girl that he finds and teams up with, who could actually happen to see. Meanwhile, there's a lighthouse out in the middle of nowhere, on the side of the ocean, where there's a husband-wife team in there of scientists, and basically, they were so busy fighting over his drinking problem and working, they never watched the light show in the sky. Is what it was. They can see. Ooh, separate story. Is what it is. Meanwhile, as we come to find out, one of the side effects of those planetary little travelers, the comets going by, is that the Triffids now suddenly grew. They got big, they got large, they got angry, they got organized, and now they are on a mission. Apparently just to wipe people out. The way shit goes, they're spreading, they're sporing, they're popping up everywhere. You can't get away from them. Will everybody survive? Will everybody unite? Will everybody figure out how to beat the deadly little, well, bigger Triffids? It is what it is. You'll get there. I'm not telling you, because that would wreck it for you. And that's not the type of channel this is. Let's get going to the summation. Okay, The Day of the Triffids. Is it a classic? You bet your ass it's a classic. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But it's an odd little film. It doesn't get remembered along with some of the other stuff from that time, or even time a little bit before. Nobody remembers Day of the Triffids up there with like War of the Worlds or even Forbidden Planet or anything like that. But it made its mark. And it made its mark because it's kind of a movie that feels like it should be someplace else than what it is. It's one of those motion pictures that when you look at it, you're like, does it belong? Let me explain. We're talking about this motion picture has a B-movie plot that is beyond simple. Plants that grow up and chase people. That's like Creature from the Black Lagoon shit, folks. It's really simple. It's really stupid. There's not much thought that goes into it. Its effects for the time, they're a little bit cheesy. I mean, this came after like War of the Worlds, but yet it feels like the special effects in it are much more dated than those movies. You know what I mean? Everything is like, you know, a layer of smoke film over the layer of the actors. There's all kinds of stuff where you look at it and say, oh, this is goddamn just ridiculously them driving on a road with like a fake camera shot behind them. The effects are not state of the art. And the Triffids, I mean, they look okay, but you can obviously tell there's like an arm in the thing dragging them along. So the effects, B-movie at best. The directing style, it's kind of odd because it almost makes you feel like you're watching a TV movie at points, and then it almost makes you feel like you're watching a big budget flick at points. I mean, sometimes you're going to look at this and you're going to say to yourself, am I just watching an over-glorified episode of The Twilight Zone? Or am I watching an over-glorified episode of The Outer Limits? What exactly is going on here? How did this come to be? And I think that partially is because of what happened in the director's seat in this motion picture. You see, when they originally filmed this movie, they found out the movie was frighteningly too short. I mean, it came out to like 57 minutes or something like that. And that was all the original stuff directed by Steve Sekely. So what they said was, we got to pad this out. We got to make this movie longer. So they went and got Freddie Francis, and everything that you see take place at the lighthouse, everything you see take place between that couple at the lighthouse, it was entirely shot separately, entirely by a different director, entirely in a different look. Everything was just separate from the main shoot. And that's why you kind of have this like unresolved feeling with the motion picture to a degree, because you're like watching one story take place here and one story take place there. And usually in a motion picture, when they do that, at some point or another, those stories overlap. They intertwine. There's something that joins two of them together, even if it's a radio communication, even if it's something minor or little. And in this motion picture, it never happens. It's like you're watching two 45-minute movies that somebody just spliced together and made one longer movie out of. And basically that's kind of what they did. But one of the things that makes this motion picture truly enjoyable is that past its sometimes bland feeling, past a little bit of its cheesiness, past a little bit of its low budgetiness type stuff, is the fact that you always felt like it was shooting to be more than what it was. That it was trying to reach out from its almost TV movie vibe, from its almost TV episode feel, and be something bigger than it really was meant to be or had the capability to be. There's some beautiful shots in this motion picture. There's some nice scenery in this motion picture. In the train station scene where they had all those extras and people running around, and a couple of the deserted street scenes, they just looked amazing. Where you're like, okay, this is a big motion picture. There's stuff in here that's going on. And you feel like at those moments, you can forgive the cheesy special effects in a lot of these things. You can forgive the actually bad looking special effects at moments. And you say, okay, I get what they were trying to do. They had an eye to make this thing look bigger and better than what it was, and they had the desire and the heart and the push to make it bigger and better than it was. But did they have the budget to make it bigger and better than it was? Probably not. But it's that feeling, that spirit, that reaching for it that you can feel in this motion picture that really makes you get behind it. All that being said, when all is said and done, you got adequate directing. You got decent acting. You got subpar special effects. You got a ridiculously stupid storyline. But when it's all put together, like a bunch of mishmash parts that don't belong, kind of like Sophia Loren, in the end, you have something that stands out, is enjoyable, and is fun to look at. Kind of like Sophia Loren. Okay, everybody, once and again, and as always, be good to each other. Take care of each other. Stay out of trouble. Look out for family. Help a friend. Be kind to a stranger. And above all other things, never, ever take any bullshit from anybody. Be good.